Hey everyone, this is Matt giving you a little pre-recorded message. I'm going to be doing an AMA on the Chapo Trap House 2 subreddit, and that should be cross-promoted to the Sit Down subreddit as well as the Come Town subreddit. So if you want to come out and ask me a question, it's happening on Thursday at 7 p.m. So check that out. Go ahead and subscribe to those guys. And if you haven't left us a 5-star review yet on iTunes, please go ahead and do that. This episode, guys, that'll be a huge boost for us. It'll put us into the top 200 for sure. So without further ado, here's the episode.
I am here with super producer Matt Anderson and podcaster and now documentary. Was this your first documentary?
It was.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Podcaster.
It would be cool to lie and be like, yeah, I actually wrote all of Errol Morris's Fog of War.
Yeah.
Just assuming no one will check.
Yeah.
It's cool to say that you wrote a documentary that's just an interview with a guy.
Right.
Yeah, I actually wrote that guy's answers. I wrote
Brother-
Robert McNamara's answers for him.
I wrote Brother's Keeper. I casted those old guys in the woods. And did you ever see that documentary?
Brother's Keeper.
Brothers
I actually never watched it.
No.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Anyway, but we're not talking about those tards in the woods. We're talking about
That's what it's about?
we're talking about these three brothers, and one of them died. They're like these illiterate farming brothers, and one of them dies, and it's an investigation to how he died and who killed him. But they allude to the fact that maybe the real estate company who wanted to build on their farmland might have killed one of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
But then I think during the trial there was semen on the bed that the brothers slept together. I don't know. You gotta watch it. I'm not really doing it justice.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah,
yeah.
I don't have a.
Were those actually the brothers from Lemon Party?
I wish
The old guys?
Those guys are brothers?
No. No, I don't. That would be funny if it all goes down for me. I get sued by the Lemon Party guys for saying they're brothers. They're like, we're not brothers at all.
Defamation.
Sue me for $100 million.
It's such a bummer when a reference goes over my head.
I'll go to
This is one of my
lemonparty.org.
high cultural references that I'm known
it
for.
is.
Is Lemon Party.
Lemonparty.org.
All right.
I'm surprised you didn't do
Is
this
it-
in the
I-
computer lab
Is it
growing
like
up.
three? Oh, it's like the old men kissing or something.
Yep.
Yeah,
right.
you could say that.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's. You
Yeah,
know
it's
what?
like-
Let's check it
It's a
out
little
live
bit
on the
more
show.
than French kissing.
You know what I love? I love just how
I heard Stanhope
it's
talk
such
about
a
this.
pure image. I love.
Hold on. Viewing page 1. You must be over 18 to view the site.
Oh man, that
man.
never used to happen.
Yeah, that was never.
It used to be like
Lemonparty.com.
.org.
Oh, .org. Okay. Oh, because this is just a porn site.
Oh, someone bought the domain.
Oh.
Lemon
.org
Party
shit's
really
the
like
big-
Wait, hold on.
compared to the other ones. Like you remember pain4.jpg?
No.
Ooh, it's a bad one.
Do you remember?
Don't look up pain4.
It was
Mike.
like white.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you saw Lemon Party?
Yeah.
Describe it for the
.org.
Dude,
Oh, podcasting. The audio medium.
Okay, so it's three. It looks like Warren Buffett and Bernie Sanders, and they're like one is blowing the other, and the other one is kissing the guy being blown. But it's actually like a very nice picture.
Yeah.
Like the way that his eyes are closed when he's kissing his friend. It's like compared like
Very sweet.
The
Yeah.
other shock images from that time on the internet is like, yeah, it's like a dick being pulled apart and like a guy being fucked to death by a horse.
Right.
And then it's just that which is
Here, let's
actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
let's switch mics because I don't know. That one sounds worse than this one.
That one went out a little bit, right?
Yeah, we gotta. Oh fuck.
I just do that to any mic I touch. I just give bad audio to any mic that I
Why Lemon
Holding.
Party? Just so that people would stumble across it.
I guess, and also like the balls are like lemons. I guess I don't know. I never really like. I don't know why anything is called what it is besides
yeah.
Tub Girl and Pain4. Like, okay,
Yeah.
obviously Pain4. That's
Yeah.
painful. Tub Girl, she's in a tub. But goatse. Why is it called goatse?
I don't know.
What's goatsy?
What?
Oh, hey.
Are you know all this shit? You don't know goatse.
I mean, I'm yeah, I don't know.
Goatse.
I just
I mean,
don't know.
it's rough to describe or difficult. It's just a guy just gaping his asshole with his hands.
Oh no!
But goatse.
See, you described it pretty well.
Yeah, but it's like it's more than the sum of its parts.
Right. A picture's worth a million words.
But goatseing people, became the go-to after a while. Like it was split between Tub Girl. Most people did Tub Girl or Lemon Party, and then like if you're a real freak, you did Pain 4. But goatse took over. Goatse, it was like the takeover of the American dollar after World War II. It became the common shock image to like fool someone into going to. And I think like the turning point of the internet is when people started rickrolling instead of goatseeing people.
Yeah.
And that's like, all right. It's like in casino, right? When they're like, when the corporate money took over and they show all the retirees coming in, that's what happened to the internet.
Right.
And it's just like,
they legitimized it.
yeah, goatse's inflamed asshole being replaced by Rick Astley. And then it's the orchestral music, and then Ace Rothstein, me alone in my apartment, just looking at goatse alone.
You're not allowed in the establishment anymore. Get out.
The internet used to be a different place. It'll never be the same.
Yeah, my extent of it was like these were the unblocked sites that we could go to in the computer lab in like 7th grade, like whitehouse.com, lemonparty.org.
What's whitehouse.com?
It's just a porn site.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it still is.
I wonder who took this picture too. One of the guy's daughters or something. One of his grown adult daughters.
Did you notice that he has a wedding ring?
No. Let me see.
It's kind of a small.
Oh,
image.
yeah.
Oh! You're still looking at Lemon Party. I thought you were talking about goatse.
Oh, good.
Well, yeah, that is. Who did take the? That's a good fucking investigative journalism series.
Yeah.
There's
That's
your
the dude.
documentary. There's your
I'm-
first documentary, Mike.
We're
Right.
calling John. We're working with him together. That's so funny to get John Boyce and be like, John, we have an idea.
Right. How about Adam Curtis?
John and Adam. John's so nice. He'd be like, I don't know, guys. Adam Curtis is. What if Adam Curtis was really into the idea?
Yeah. Because who are like the big Michael Moore?
Errol Morris,
He's
Michael
like-
Moore.
Yeah. You just get like a nice voice actor like Morgan Freeman.
Remember how he like confronted Charlton Heston at his house? He just goes to one of these old man's houses. Excuse me, I'd like to talk to you about Lemon
And
Party.
he just leaves the picture at their gate.
he like goes to like coffee shops. It's like, have you seen this man? Go see.
Well, people found goatse. People found goatse.
Oh, they
guy.
did?
He got doxxed.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Well, I think he was like open about it. He was
Oh.
like good for goatse guy. Really,
Yeah.
like that's an amazing talent.
Did he lose his job?
I actually don't know. I should like look up background on what happened to Goatse Man. Maybe that was his job though.
Yeah, because there was this internet meme that was like, if a dog were to wear pants, would it do it like this or like this? You know, the different ways. Would it wear it around all 4 legs or 2 legs? And then Nick did a meme that was like, if a dog were to do goatse, would he do it like this or like this? And then someone stole that meme and they were like, if a dog were to open its ass, would he do it like this or like this? And Nick was like, it's do goatse.
Yeah. That's like when someone just uses the literal it's like using Google Translate. It's very upsetting. It's taking away our native language.
yeah, just taking a little bit off.
Yeah.
How about an episode of House where he sees the photo of Goatse and he's like, I have to save this man from this disease that only I can see in his asshole.
It's a mental disease?
Well, I mean, House sees
If he
something
sees like
wrong.
he sees like a tumor in there.
Yeah, and then it hits you with the music.
I'm just amazed at how red it is.
The guy's ass.
I gotta see this. I still haven't seen it.
I was laughing at the idea of watching Goatse with your family, like Nanette. Like, please, you all have to see this. This is so important.
It's required viewing.
I've seen it so many times. I'm always catching new things in Goatse.
Okay. Jesus Christ. It's getting all
that's
memed
it?
up on Google Images. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Wait. My friend sent me this video. I want to show it to you before we start. That's the worst thing ever. Well, but I didn't. I guess it's still
Well,
going.
the hand, the forearm is going in like very smoothly.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad.
That
Like,
didn't even bother me that much.
Me
But
neither.
both the guys' anuses come out of their asses.
What does a doctor think of this? Oh my God.
I don't know.
How's he not scrubbed up right now? In like a perfect surgery room.
Yeah.
Well, I figure you really have to like sanitize like your entire body before you do that to somebody. Right?
Right.
Like you're going so far up there.
There's like kits for it or something.
It's like he's milking 2 cows at once.
Pod Save America sells the asshole cleaning kit.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's so cynical how Pod Save America is giving a show to the goatse guy just to trade off his clout. Goat Save America. All the Johns trying to banter with the goatse man.
We just want the other perspective on our show. Anyway, so Felix's documentary is Fighting in the Age of Loneliness. I thought the interesting thing that you said at the beginning of the documentary was that the story of the UFC is a story of exploitation, you know? And you see that in the mafia a lot, too. You have the bosses at the top sitting around in their white mansion like Paul Castellano collecting money, and everybody else is on the street, you know, doing the stuff, doing the work, and they have to... And it's just like... It's a tale as old as time that you see in every industry, and... You know?
Yeah.
Well, that is something that I think I could have gone into more if there weren't like certain rules you have to follow when you make it. I did, of course, talk about the early criminal backgrounds of the Fertitta family, the formerly chief financial holders of the UFC. But there is a huge similarity, right, between like an organized crime structure and a fight promotion. People rise and fall very rapidly. There is a great, like, for as good as you can be at whatever it is you do, the most important thing is how tight you are with the promoter. Mm-hmm. You kick up to your manager, to your, you know, the guy who's the head of your training camp, your head coaches. And there is a clannishness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That you don't really see in the rest of the economy anymore.
Right. And then, like, do you feel like a lot of the fighters aren't treated fairly once they leave, or do you think they're underpaid? Or, I mean, because I feel like I have friends who are big wrestling fans, and that's a common theme in the WWE. The guys don't get health insurance, and they all kind of end up like.
And the NFL had that huge CTE settlement, right? So, like, that hasn't happened with this yet.
Well, there's no fighters union, and fighters do finally have health insurance. That was something put in place in this past decade. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, fighters in the UFC have it while they're in the UFC, but they have no pension plan. They have no collective bargaining. Their other benefits aren't amazing. I mean, it used to be that was sort of like a trade-off, because I talked about it in the documentary, but sponsorships used to make up a huge deal of what fighters made. Mm-hmm. And those effectively got taken away through the Reebok deal, where it was a gradual thing. There was something called the sponsor tax before that, where sponsors that weren't on Dana White's like list would have to pay like $50,000 per fighter in some cases, and a lot of companies that were like, you know, mid-range condom wholesalers or like hardware companies, they couldn't afford that or didn't think it was worth it. But there were still people who were on Dana White's like good list, and fighters could still make a lot of money. But now they make significantly less, because there are only a few sponsors allowed that have a deal directly with the UFC, and it just pays far, far less.
Right.
And the fighters, of course, they had no actual labor organizing recourse for this.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, like, that happened in 2014, right?
Yeah, it's the Reebok deal.
Right. And you said in the 5th part that they're leaving like the UFC for like basically like if we were to compare it to like an A room to a B room. Are you gonna hit the dog? Mike just left the room to shut the dog up. I guess this is like a natural break, but like they're leaving like the UFC, which is like an established brand, to go over to what's the other fighting?
Well, there are a few other fighting promotions. There's ONE FC, which has a lot of presence in Southeast Asia. There's Recine, which is in Japan. There's Bellator, which is the other chief American promotion. And I want to note that it's not even close to like half of all, not even really a quarter of top talent is going to these places. But if you were somebody who could draw eyes and maybe you were never going to win a belt again, but you definitely put on fights that were good for the company that people liked, and you're not making that championship money. You used to make a ton of money, comparatively, a ton of money through sponsorships. You're not anymore. And the UFC does sort of flex in that it still believes it is the only game in town, which it was for a while. It was. There was actually an FTC investigation that went really nowhere. But your best bet is probably to go somewhere that allows you to have sponsorships, maybe pays you more, maybe lets you do more other stuff. Because there's a lot of other restrictions that fighters under contract to the UFC have.
Do you think there's something maybe like kind of counterintuitive about or maybe people are resistant to the idea of something like a fighters union when something like fighting is inherently competitive? And I don't know, I feel like it's the same thing in show business or whatever kind of thing like that, where it's like everybody's kind of competing to be the best or say the best thing, so it's something that maybe
and with so many personalities, like who do you elect to be your representative? Like in the players union, they always like pick one, or I don't know, it's like one or two people to go and represent the players, and everyone's like, okay, cool, but like in fighting, it seems like everybody fucking hates each other.
Or a lot of the time they do. Well, it's a twofold thing. First, it's that it's incredibly difficult to union organize, a thing of individual competitors who are not on a team. Yeah. I mean, technically, some people are on a team in that they train at the same
like
camp.
A clan.
Yeah, and I guess that is one way you could do it, but that would end up being counterintuitive.
Yeah.
If there was just unions for each camp. But it's also, they're highly individualistic people that a lot of times just fucking hate each other for idiotic reasons.
Yeah.
There was one case of Donald Cerrone, who I talk about at the end of the documentary, was in a years-long feud with somebody over something neither party explained, over something that happened at the Tap Out founder's funeral.
Yeah.
And they they were never able to explain it. It was just like, he disrespected me so much at the funeral of the Tap Out guy, and it just no one ever figured out what the fuck it was about.
Right.
That seems so
I shouldn't
Italian.
have to explain myself.
Well, and that's just all fighting is stuff like that. Like most fighters, like most American fighters, they're like sort of Great Lakes archetypes of just the sort of glum, stupid guy who's like, well, I'll fight anyone who's in front of me, and they're already American, so they're just indoctrinated to not want to be for a union, and they also have the delusion of an athlete. To be especially a fighter, the delusion you must have is that I'm always the best. Anytime I lost, it's not my fault.
Yeah,
or if it is my fault, I'm 1,000 times better than I was that day. That will never happen to me again.
Right.
I will win every single fight. I'm better than all these people. Why would I unionize with them? And everyone else from every other country, well, go figure, they're weirdos from that country too. You know, even if fighting is like a bigger cultural thing there, I would say just per capita, fighting is a bigger thing in Brazil, but go figure, they're fucking bizarre too.
Yeah.
For their place. And just like the Russians, just like the English fighters, just like everybody. They're all people from the margins of society.
Right.
Put into this singular competition, and you follow like I said, most American fighters are just sort of boring people because all they did was wrestle, and they had like 3 older brothers that beat the shit out of them, and like a dad who didn't talk to them that much, and so they're just like, I have to work hard, so that will never happen again.
Girl broke their heart.
Yeah. But some are just. Do you know the fighter Mike Perry?
No.
Mike Perry is like the perfect Florida guy. He's a white guy who constantly says the soft A N-word. Mm-hmm. And he rationalized it because he got 2% on African on 23andMe.
He said Cockfield.
No, he didn't.
He did the Cockfield.
No, he didn't.
And then he said, then also a black fighter gave him permission. And when people like, it's so funny to me because he's like the most explicit example of this, of a fighter versus media culture and now popular culture at large, because like they're all fighters, have to have like a media presence, and Mike Perry is just on Twitter just dropping N-bombs and saying absurd shit. He did a video where he dresses up like in a Native American headdress because he was gonna fight Donald Cerrone, and he's like, Cowboys versus Indians, I'm a genius. And he's just like putting his ear to the ground and all that. And he's just a fucking dummy. Like he's just a stupid guy. And but like I thought it was funny because
born Flint, Michigan too.
Yeah, perfect Midwest and Florida guy. But
is there any internet outrage over stuff like that or?
That's what I was getting, because when people from like not the margins of culture, are like, what the fuck are you doing? Right. They try to like call out Mike Perry, just this absolute dunce. He's like, I'm gonna eat regardless, whatever. It just doesn't faze him. Like he was saying the N-word one day, and someone was like, you can't say that, Mike. And he's like, guess what? I'm not the first white guy to say it, and I definitely won't be the last. Jesus. And it just so...
I mean, where's the lie?
Like, in his mind, that's like the perfect defense.
Yeah, right.
And I remember he was doing like a sort of like, fans would ask him questions on Instagram Live, which is, God bless the person who asked him this question, what do you think about Kaepernick? Because it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
It's like, he says... first of all, you got to stand by Trump. That's 100%. And also stand by our military. But cops, a lot of cops, most cops, maybe not all cops, probably all cops are dirty. But I would have been in the I would have been in the military if I didn't have a felony. And then the final thing is, Kaepernick's not even that good at football. And it was so clear that he had never thought about this before he started talking. Which like he just like said, like he gets some input and he's like, oh shit, got it.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing better than watching someone like that just get unleashed.
I love him. Yeah. But like most fighters are sort of like, they're either just they got everything beaten out of them, or they're sort of like that. And there are some obviously very smart fighters in there. They're obviously not all like that, but you just pick a random guy out of the UFC, he's going to be more in that mold because he's a very marginal person. And when Deadspin will like write articles about Mike Perry, like Mike Perry does a racist thing, and like, what do you think he thinks of that?
Right.
He's just like, damn, these guys are hating.
Are there any repercussions from the league or anything?
No, no, because most MMA fans are just like, this is hilarious, Mike. This is a great skit, Mike.
Great irony,
cool, Mike. But they're mostly like that. Like, think about Mike Perry taking input and just being like, I'm gonna eat regardless.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to organize a union with people like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then are there any upper class fighters? I mean, like it's primarily a thing for people who probably come from poverty, and
there are a lot. There are a ton. I mean, it goes place to place. There's some people who come up through the sort of the impoverished way of fighting, which is, you box at some community thing as a kid, you wrestle, you get a scholarship, and it's a very low percentage thing that you're able to get because it's just a series of lucky events, a series of lucky gifts of athleticism. But there is a great deal of middle class and upper class people. Carlos Condit is one. His dad was lieutenant governor of New Mexico. Donald Cerrone grew up quite rich. A lot of Brazilian fighters grow up very, very, very rich, and they sort of... American MMA fans just think the entire country of Brazil is just like inner city slums and jungles, and there's just no rich people over there. And there are a ton. Most Brazilian, I'd say like a little over half of Brazilian fighters you see in the UFC come from rich backgrounds, or at least middle class, because I mean, it's a different class thing all the time, but jiu-jitsu is expensive, kickboxing is expensive, and so you get either people who like this was their only shot, or just people who are like, oh, I can pay an extra $20,000 a year to pursue this hobby. Oh, I'm pretty good at it. Cool.
Yeah.
Luke Rockhold, another one. Luke Rockhold is he was for a while the ultimate Chad of MMA. And then he just got his chin cracked. Sucks. You hate to see it. But he was like a Southern California, like rich, pretty boy guy.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of that. There's an absolute ton of that. But in any event, be it the rich person or the poor person, they are marginal in whatever group they grew up in. Mm. It's a marginal activity.
Sure. Jamie Kilstein did jiu-jitsu.
Could have been the greatest fighter of all time. We'll just never know.
It's still the funniest thing. Do you remember when he said he was going to fight Jonah Goldberg?
Fight of the century.
Yeah.
What weight class? What weight? Jamie would be what? Like probably lightweight, and then Jonah would be. Well, all those NRO guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Jamie would probably win.
Yeah.
I can't imagine any physical activity Jonah Goldberg has ever done.
Right. Yeah.
I love that the beginning of your doc, how it starts like by like them holding that tournament, and it's just like what a kid would pick, like, oh, karate can beat wrestling, and like a sumo wrestler, and it was like, it's just so funny for them to play like ultimate fighting, almost like Street Fighter, like who would win.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. I mean, that was the game to everyone except the Gracies, who knew like, oh, no one knows how to grapple, really.
Yeah,
Once this hits the ground, no one knows what the fuck is going on. Only we do. And in retrospect, it's like they definitely put things in their favor, but not no one knowing about what they did.
Right.
Like Art Jimerson was actually a pretty respected boxer, but he just didn't know what was going on. And he just freaked out when he saw Hoist for the first time. So he wore one glove and was just bewildered.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you, I didn't have enough time to show this, but Jimerson, one of the most accomplished fighters in that first tournament, he didn't submit to like a joint hold or a choke or even the strikes. He was just under mount. He was under Hoist Gracie's mount, and he gave up.
Oh, he's like, this is weird.
But do you blame him if you didn't know what jiu-jitsu was, and this guy could just drag you down, there was nothing you could do about it, and you saw him turn everyone.
You think he panicked?
I would probably if I didn't know what it was, I just had no grappling experience.
Why was he wearing one glove so he could grapple?
Yeah. Well, he didn't really know what was going on until the day of.
Right.
But he I think he took another MMA fight years later because he was like, oh, what a weird happenstantial thing that I was in the first one of these. He actually won years later. But the things were definitely stacked in the Gracie's favor in that event.
Yeah. Let's talk about, because we talk about villains a lot on the show. Let's talk about some of the initial pushback to when MMA showed up. Let's talk about our favorite Senator John McCain and
rest in peace.
John McCain didn't like MMA because he thought it was, well, he released a statement saying he didn't like MMA and he liked boxing better, but you brought up in the documentary that his wife was the heir to Anheuser-Busch, and that company spent a lot of money on boxing.
She was buying
sponsorships.
she was the heiress to a big Anheuser-Busch distributor. Mm-hmm. And, interestingly enough, Anheuser-Busch ended up becoming a UFC sponsor later on.
Okay.
There's a hilariously awful ad, a Bud Light UFC ad, where it's like John Jones very shortly before his first DUI, and then Dana White, and they're like, tonight's going to be an awesome night, and they're just robotically drinking Bud Light, and it's like, who greenlit this? This sucks. But McCain's political career was undergirded by the Anheuser-Busch distributor fortune that Cindy had. And also, as Mr. Respectable Republican, what was less respectable than the early UFC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
was that kind of like what he said? What he said that it was, because he was like, boxing is good.
Yeah. He was like, boxing is
the ghetto.
Boxing. Yeah.
Boxing's for whites.
Sometimes a good one will show that it's good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it was twofold for him. It was like he gets to nip an early competitor to something economically important to him in the bud, and also I think as he was just a complete pompous prick.
Yeah,
that he just thought it was
him
disgusting.
Yeah.
It's amazing they do.
Yeah. What do you think it is that they think he's? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I've always been like, oh, he's a war vet, but like I didn't know all like the shitty stuff.
Matt's from Arizona,
so.
Well, the war stuff, the war stuff is just a great example of American cultural poisoning, because he should have never been in that plane that was shot down to begin with.
Yeah.
If you really, really want to go with that, we should have never been there. And one of the least defensible things you could do in that war is volunteer to be a pilot.
Right.
Yeah, dropping bombs.
Yeah, I mean, I get.
Just once you're there, it's like really sympathetic that you're
if you get drafted or whatever, even if you're just like sold a bunch of bullshit, hey,
sure.
People get in these shitty circumstances where they do awful things, but I try not to blame the individual so much. But he knew what the score was, and he thought it was the right thing.
He was an officer for sure.
But also, he should have never been in that exact plane, because someone who crashes as many times does not get to fly that plane, and they only get to do it if they come from naval aristocracy, as McCain did.
Right.
Oh.
And he's just from a family of admirals.
Gotcha.
He also just really liked war, right?
He loved war. He was like a Churchill type guy who just was obsessed with war.
Was Teddy Roosevelt that kind of guy too?
Oh yeah, big time. And that's why they all love him.
Yeah.
And he's such a big American figure, is because he's the epic war guy. He's so epic, and he's manly and epic. It's so fucking cool,
right?
But he was.
I follow Megan on Instagram, and watching her be sad for her dad is kind of like watching Phil Leotardo be bummed out about his dad.
It's such a performance. Like everything about that family is pure performance.
Yeah.
But McCain is.
She's got a nice body though, huh?
What, am I not allowed to comment on?
Come on, Felix.
I can't talk about a beautiful woman.
Sit down, baby.
Our fans would be angry if we didn't. So
if we didn't what?
Didn't talk.
No, you
about
have to
it.
retain brand integrity,
right? Yeah.
But so people, it's like he got shot. He didn't leave, and admittedly, like the story of John McCain's life is just decades of selfishness and insanity and hatred and greed. Well, just his entire life.
Okay.
It'll be decades of that, and then like one act that's like, okay, seeing that you got yourself in this position and helped make everything worse, and then you did this one sort of okay thing that's going to buy you another decades of pure selfishness.
Gotcha.
And the war is a perfect example. He, knowing everything that he does, he volunteers to do the least defensible act that a low-ranking officer can do. He blows what should be his opportunity to do this selfish, insane act. Still gets to do it. He fails at the act again. He is locked away, and then he does one thing, which is like, no, you don't let me go first, even though my dad's the admiral. Let someone else go. And so people are like, he's the most principled man ever. It's like in the Senate, how many awful things did McCain introduce and let go by? And then he does one thing with Iraq. He's Mr. Iraq. He's Mr. Intervention. He's Mr. Deregulation. And then when Iraq starts going bad, he's like, it's going poorly. And everyone, thank you so much. Thank you. Trump, how many Trump things does he vote for? How many nominees does he confirm?
Yeah.
He votes for the tax bill, but then
he thumbs down with brain cancer.
The Obamacare repeal. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fair. Yeah. I like don't know all that stuff, and like getting it in perspective, you're like, oh, okay. This is all kind of making sense.
It is kind of funny,
kid.
Well, it's funny too watching my grandmother, who's been a Republican her whole life, how much she loves Trump, and now has completely turned on it, like Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, and she's like, they're a bunch of scumbags. And
it's so great. It's just when you see an actual instinctual creature, like they're all like focus
calculated
testing and data science, and it's just all instinct,
right?
And instinct wins every time.
Right.
Yeah, my mom was talking about like how like Common Core is bad for education. And I was like, why? And she's like, I don't know. I've heard it around. And I was like, okay. And she's telling me like the mainstream media doesn't cover assassination attempts on Donald Trump.
Attempts?
Yeah, so we just both called each other brainwashed and left it at that. So
I love that.
Your mom sounds like a fucking dope.
Merry Christmas, Mom.
That is such a good. That's a QAnon thing.
Yeah.
Where they're like, if there's like a red light near Trump in a speech, they're like, that was John Podesta's snipers trying to kill him.
That's so fun, though.
It's so
fucking
George
fun.
Soros.
Yeah. No, and the thing with JFK Jr. about how like they think his magazine was called George because he was trying to say who killed his dad.
That's the most amazing thing, because like
awesome.
couldn't he just say it?
Yeah.
Like he was. Oh my god! There was one video of Trump like. I hate to be like, I feel like this is a very like annoying online lib thing to do, where you're like, Trump has the psychological conditions known as projection and schizophrenia. He's notably abusive bipolar, just the things they learned from watching Law and Order.
Yeah.
But you got to figure he's like senile, right?
Yeah.
And he was walking in just this hysterical way a few months ago. And it's like, yeah, he's senile. He's walking like a fucking stupid old man, which is what he is. And the QAnon people are like, no, he's zigzagging to avoid snipers. So fucking good.
So good. Don't you think of those people must be so fucking happy and excited. Like life must be so exciting for them.
Like Chris Kyle,
that's such a cool story.
Guy fucking a 7-year-old man doing little jig stuff.
It's so because you just see this like selfish old piece of shit who doesn't care about you at all, and you're like, he is risking his life for me.
Yeah.
He's literally being sniped at every day by actual snipers. He's using amazing zigzag techniques. It's so fucking... I mean, God bless them. They found a way to turn...
You almost don't want to take that away from them.
You know, it's like, I wish I could make a community for QAnon people to live in. I don't want them to vote. I don't want them to do a lot of stuff. But... you know, if they can keep it among themselves, just give them a show. Trump too. Give Trump I always there is this impulse, I think, in America to believe in a comprehensive evil plan, and there is a great deal of evil at the highest levels of our country, but it's a lot less coordinated and a lot more incompetent than people think.
Right.
And you got to figure, like, if the deep state was really evil and smart, they would have just like made a TV set for Trump and been like, "Here, you're president," and then just run things like you know, like fucking Mike Pence is really president, because it's like this was the deep state's greatest nightmare, right? Is this, and not for the reasons QAnon people think, and not for the reasons that people are anti-Trump think, but just because, he's just out of random chance is against some of the things they're for, and he's also he's like a stupid old man, and no one would want that, but they didn't do that. He's president,
right? So like maybe Larry Silverstein didn't do 9/11, but when the plane hit the towers, he like got an erection or something.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those things. It's like one of those things. Yeah, it's like for him. Yeah, for him.
Larry, why are you smiling? Your building just fell down.
For him,
that's my little secret.
For him, it's like you bet on a fight or something that you forgot you bet on.
Right,
You're like,
right.
oh hell yeah. Let's go, dude.
Right, you put $500 in some like Ukrainian stock or something. It just exploded.
All right, man.
Fans or whatever.
Ukrainian weed and
I don't know.
Photo you found at
I'm
Don
gonna go to
Jr.
the
was so
bathroom
funny
really quick.
too.
Where they're at the match together, the UFC match.
Oh, John found that, I think.
Oh yeah.
I forgot the password to my Don Jr. image folder, but I don't know how many. I don't imagine I reached a lot of like conservative leaning people, because I'm long past believing you like win over anyone, and like anyone past a certain age, and not that age even being that old. It just, you know,
right.
They're not going to see a piece of media and change their perspective. It's other random events in life and things that change people. You know, maybe a recession or something, but I can't imagine. I imagine that they watch the ones of those of them who stayed were like, I like the fights when you started talking about politics. That was fucking, that sucked. There was There's a comment that from the YouTube that people in my Twitch use as a just a copy paste. They just spam it. Like they'll donate like bits or something and just spam it because it's so good. And it just like, how about you're a shame to our race, which is I'm a Russian Jew too. So why don't you stop sitting in a basement and being autistic? It's like, got me, dude.
Yeah. I don't even know this, but I can't stop doing that.
It's also, this was recorded at the opposite of the basement. It was recorded in a very high building. Right. That's where I was being.
So suck my dick.
Now that I know that, I'm gonna go buy some bits and donate to your channel.
Yeah. All right. We'll come back in a second. Let me just Google Meghan McCain sexy. So we've been missing out on. But also, let's talk about the Fertitta brothers a little bit. So the Fertitta brothers were childhood friends with Dana White, who had to leave Boston because Whitey Bulger was trying to shake him down. Because what was he, a boxer size?
Yeah, he taught a boxer size class, and Bulger tried to extort him there, he says.
That's great.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of it is true or how much of it is just like the legend of Dana White, you know?
Yeah. Whitey Bulger's like, this is a nice little Soul Cycle studio you got here.
What a funny thing to that really
To
is like
extort,
season 1 in Sopranos.
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
trying to extort the Starbucks stand-in.
Right. Yeah.
That's season 6. Season 1 is when they go and find out about it.
Oh yeah, you're right. And
Yeah.
Paulie just steals from it because of cultural appropriation.
appropriation.
That
Like,
shit
this
was
should
so
be ours.
funny.
Yeah.
Right, for the culture.
Oh my god, that is so good.
Yeah, really, there's nothing left to like really shake down anymore.
That was one of my favorite things in Sopranos. Yeah, everything is a chain and hyper corporatized. And when the guy's like, "Well, yeah, I could give you money, they just fire me and replace me," and there's an endless source of guys who would take my job. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
It's over for the little guy.
Yeah.
Let me see. Hey, there's some.
Oh, here we go. Mccain
There's
sexy.
some.
Damn.
There's some yams.
I remember in like 2008, the like political, like you think online political media is bad now. It was so bad back then. And it was just like, there was just a bunch of horny Democrats that were like, "Ma'am, I may hate your ideas, but
Really?
you are, yeah, ma'am, I may disagree with you."
No.
But yeah, no, there was a ton of that.
That's so good.
Online libs used to be hornier. There's this great,
That's awesome.
There's this great post that my friend,
Who's the horniest now?
I don't know, actually. I feel like maybe the roles are reversed because they're now Republicans are doing that with AOC.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I saw
sure.
such a good post where someone was posting a picture of AOC, like some conservative, and then like some fucking like old boomers like, "Your ideas may be loony, but you have those wonderful Latina eyes."
Yeah, like they're like typing with their fucking 10-gallon Just fucking,
Okay, it felt so greasy to read.
He's mad he can't DM her.
There's probably like a lot of computers go into the shop because it's like boomers trying to DM Cortez. They're just like they can't do it because their computer doesn't work.
They're tweeting that. Yeah, she's
You
beautiful.
are a beautiful young lady, but you need to Google the
You need to
nation
grow
of
up.
Venezuela.
yeah. And you have to tell your dad, you're like, "Oh, that's not a DM. You're just typing that in the search bar on Google."
Or you just made that your Facebook status.
Yeah.
That's what the guys from Lemon Party are doing now. They went back to women. And they're
No, well,
DMing.
so one of them is Charles Koch, but no, one of them is Bernie Sanders, and the other is Warren Buffett. So only one of them is doing that.
This elephant died right after they took that photo. All right, you know who
she had an awful blog, Meghan McCain, where it was just like politics and beer.
Oh,
Nice. This is that type of shit.
God. That was back when the Man Show was on. And
Oh yeah,
I was like
back when
Andrea.
the culture was good.
Me and my brother and cousin would sneak downstairs and watch the Man Show at low volume. We felt we were like really cool.
I remember watching it when I was like 12.
Yeah.
and thinking like I had got one over by being able to see it, and just being like, it was just kind of a waste of time for me.
yeah. When they do the
Because
chants at the
I
end-
knew how to look up like naked tits online.
Right.
Like I knew how to do that. And then the like big bit was like Andy Milonakis like going up to women and being like, "Can you give me a blowjob?" He looks like a kid. Awesome.
Yeah. And people are like, "I watch for the credits."
Yeah.
Just fucking women on trampolines.
Did you do Kazaa?
I was
that
more a
porn?
LimeWire kid,
LimeWire.
but yeah, same
Okay.
type of.
We downloaded porn off Kazaa. I remember one time like downloading a porn that was like 14-year-old lesbians, and I was like, "Oh, I'm 14 too."
Oh no!
Oh, no.
Should I bleep that out?
The second I opened it, I was like, "Oh my god, this is child pornography!" Even though, like, I was a kid, I could have watched it, but I was like, "No!"
Oh my
I wanted
god!
him to look like the girls in my class.
Oh
I'm pissed.
no!
Oh boy, we're gonna have to talk to our sit-down lawyers about that one,
That
Mike.
what? When I did it by accident?
Yeah, in your admission.
That could be a good episode, though. Child porn, Kazaa and child pornography.
Light topic.
Some guy with frosted tips. He's the CEO of Kazaa. He's got
Oh,
to issue
there's Kazaa still around.
he's got to issue a public apology.
Our
Wait,
bad.
I said I did it when I was 14, right?
That's still illegal. There's
download
like
child
there's like
pornography?
cases of like girlfriends sending naked pictures to their boyfriends, and like they get in trouble
overzealous prosecutors
because of the fucking parents and
It's
overzealous
that's how Kamala Harris rose to power.
Yeah,
And did you?
that's our future president.
Michael, did you download the picture of the girls kissing? I'm like, yes, I did. I'm sorry. My voice hasn't changed. I get thrown in jail. I get thrown in juvie.
I actually got into MMA because of LimeWire, and I'm very lucky I downloaded Pride Final Conflict and not that by accident.
Yeah.
That could have been a very different documentary.
I always liked Andrea Tantaros from Fox News too.
Oh yeah. Well, they have two types of.
Oh yeah. Anybody on TV that's a political pundit, who doesn't really.
Well, they have like two. They have two molds at Fox, and it's like, the like Don Jr.'s girlfriend, who's like looks like Andrea,
kind of ethnic, right?
Ethnic, but not too ethnic.
Yeah.
And then like the blonde one.
Yeah,
but both still kind of foxy.
Yeah.
I found out my dad's super horny for Laura Ingraham. He's like, you guys ought to listen to her. She says a lot of smart stuff.
Do you know that Keith Olbermann used to smash?
Smash what? Laura Ingraham?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Huh.
They're all the same people, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they just all go to the same thing, all the same parties, all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told this story before, but my mom tried to like mess with my dad by saying that because we're from Jersey, she said that she voted for Bob Menendez, and my dad got real mad at her. And then she also started taking CBD oil, and my dad was like, "I don't even know who you are anymore. You're taking CBD and voting for Bob Menendez."
It's so funny.
Yeah. We got Alex to say Menendez when you asked him who he's voting for.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. People want him on the show too. Did you know that?
They do?
Yeah.
They want my autistic brother on the show?
Yeah.
All right. Why not?
Well, why not? He's
He
your
can
brother.
call in.
He's your family.
Yeah. All right. So also, let's talk about the Fertitta brothers and their connection to Dana White. So they were boyhood friends with Dana White. They had some kind of racket in Texas or something, prostitution racket.
Right. The Fertittas worked for the Maceo family in Galveston, Texas, and the Maceos were like a sort of like a mid-sized crime family who ran everything like a mafia syndicate does.
What part of Texas is Galveston in?
It's sort of let me check exactly geographically.
It's the Fertitta brothers' parents too. So like they
right. It was the Fertitta's parents.
So this is like
they Galveston.
I'll check that. We are not editing this out. Oh, it's like on the Gulf of Mexico. I guess. Yeah.
Gulf area, and they after the Maceos were sort of hit by law enforcement and they sort of became defunct as a family. The elder Fertitta generation relocated to Las Vegas, and they were very smart operators,
right?
And Frank Jr. rose incredibly fast through old Vegas, kind of. And he just, in a matter of years, just went from like pit dealer to casino boss to owning his own, and eventually became the Station Casinos empire. And Station Casinos actually, as it went downhill, the UFC went uphill under the Fertitta stewardship. They ended up making significantly more money from the UFC. Station, for a while, it was just it allowed the Fertittas to have the UFC as a loss leader. It didn't make any money for quite some time, but they just had this money spigot that no other owner of the promotion would have. The previous owners, SEG, they were a bunch of like smaller investors who didn't have, a literal multi-billion-dollar fortune.
Yeah,
and they couldn't just have this loss-leading thing that they can end up using as a tax write-off on their yearly income off interest off their inherited investments.
Yeah.
The Fertittas sure could.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so far behind on that whole world is foreign to me. All the stuff you can do, LLCs,
taxes,
and investments, and write-offs.
Really, the more money you make, the more the government. It's like playing a tutorial in a video game.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you do this?
Right.
There's a big flashing red light over like loss leaders, as corporations declaring, making income as dividends, so you're taxed at a lower rate. Just the more you make, the more they want you to get away with, really.
Yeah. And there's somebody there to like show you how to do it, another rich person.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense to, I guess, dump your money somewhere, right? Instead of hold on to it, because then you can say it's a business, it's a deduction.
A lot of people who
I'm so stupid.
A lot of people who own companies, they do stretch because you can deduct a lot if you live your day-to-day operations, just your personal life, are funded by your company. And a lot of people have gotten a lot of trouble for that before.
Okay.
But the enforcement of it does seem quite random at times, and you imagine that most people are just at that level are just doing that. But there was a guy, Aubrey McClendon, who is a Texas natural gas billionaire, who he got nabbed for doing that, for just using his company that he owned a bit of to, fly his family around to vacations and all that shit. And he ended up dying because he drove a Ferrari into a brick wall at like 100 miles an hour.
Oh my God.
Just what a way to die. What a way to go, man.
Yeah.
But you got to figure it's quite common, right?
Yeah, abusing it.
Yeah.
It's like if you have a shower at work, you use that shower.
Dude, that's the billionaire mindset. Get yourself a shower at work. You will save so much on water bills.
That's in Rich
You
Dad Poor
fucking
Dad.
bike to work, shower at work.
You get a job at Planet Fitness.
Get married to your coworker. Then you can have the marriage in the break room. Boom. You just save some more money.
Exactly.
So easy.
That's the shit that's so funny, because I follow like alpha leaders on Instagram, and it's all this crazy ways to save money and stuff that poor people do. Like, poor people buy ice cream, rich people start a business with that ice cream money. It's like, I guess you're not supposed to enjoy your life at all. Anyway, so what are the Fertitta brothers do now? I'm sure they don't have any. Do they have any illegal operations anymore? Or?
Yeah, I told Mike, I thought the Fertitta brothers, right? I don't know if they still do illegal stuff, but they're worth $2 billion now, right? You were saying? And it felt like Godfather 3, where he was trying to make his businesses legitimate. And it's like they kind of climbed out of that, and now they just have this, what is it, a capital investment firm or something like that?
Yeah, they're doing what all rich people do after they're done doing their main thing, which is just, they have an investment vehicle. They have several investment vehicles, and they just, throw a bunch of money around and hope, I hope that's the next Google.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter if I don't hit. Who cares?
Right.
I just need something to get out of the house.
Yeah. Just watch something move, I guess.
Yeah. Lorenzo Fertitta, though, is... have you ever seen a picture of him?
Oh, I've got one right here.
I think
This fucking guy?
Yeah.
Younger, though?
All natural, by the way.
it's like a young Bo Dietl.
Look at a picture of him in the gym. He's quite natural.
Okay.
It's just a regular way for, a middle-aged, however old he is, guy.
Hold on a second. Lorenzo. Ripped.
I mean, if
this
you
is just
own
what a
the
50,
UFC,
this is just
you
what
gotta
a
be
50,
fucking ripped.
50-year-old guy.
Supposed to look
This
like.
is just a very normal way for a 50-year-old man to look.
Jesus Christ! And they need to do PED testing on the fucking.
He looks like
those guys.
He looks like a testosterone commercial.
Jesus Christ! Look at that.
Yeah, that's
totally
insane.
natural. I don't care if anyone does steroids, but it is hilarious that he's like.
Oh, he just turned 50.
Yeah,
January 3rd. Good for you, brother.
It is funny to be, that rich and that powerful, and you're still like, I need to do GH.
Yeah.
Allegedly, joking, parody.
Right. We're allowed to. It's a comedy podcast.
I don't know. He's so rich. I don't want to get sued by him.
Okay.
I'm gonna run out way before he does.
Yeah.
Hey,
unless we get. By my math, 1 million more subscribers. Come on, guys.
If you guys want to sue
100
Felix,
million more subscribers.
If you want to sue Felix, you have to sue me first.
You're gonna have to sue through me for this.
Yeah. That's how loyal I am.
Using that as a legal maneuver. Council has declared, fuck with my friends, you fuck with me.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the Yakuza connection to the UFC as well. You mentioned in the documentary there was the manager.
Fighting.
What
in Pride Fighting, right? Isn't there through the Yakuza are through the Pride first, and now
the Yakuza were heavily involved in Pride, and some allege that Pride was actually started as a Yakuza money laundering scheme.
Gay Pride?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Got it.
Gay Pride fighting. Every Pride parade is just Yakuza money.
They're like, how did we get into this business?
Rainbow trunks.
You might wonder how I got here.
And it's like, how are we even making money on this?
Right. Just enjoy yourself. You guys wearing a penis helmet.
But so there are a lot of companies in Japan are actually had been started partly by Yakuza money being laundered because the rules were different for a while over investigating financial crimes. But
what happened to their economy in like the mid '90s? It kind of spiked and then it.
Oh, it was sort of the same thing as 2008, where there was a lot of borrowing and over speculation, and then it just crashed because there was nothing really behind it. And then, I mean, the difference is we sort of, for however little we spent, we were able to spend our way out of it, and they just never did. Mm-hmm. And there has been some growth since the lost, really more than a decade, but they call it the lost decade. But it was just sort of a dead zone for a very, very, very long time. An insane amount of time for such a large country with such a large economy. But so the Yakuza did launder money through a lot of companies, and they may have done it through Pride. No one knows for sure. A lot of that history is very murky. But one thing for sure is that the Yakuza were very involved with a lot of fighters in Japan and especially in Pride. But this is a very common thing, as you know, like the crime figures do love to be close to fighters, regardless of the nation, the criminal group, or wherever, whatever time period. Yeah. The organized crime figures, it's both a business thing, right? Because you can fix fights, you can sort of stake yourself into a fighter's career by seeing them when they're young, paying for their camps, and being like, all right,
I'm your
what's
dad.
up now, yeah. And also just social cash. Mm-hmm. It's cool to be cool with the fighters.
And
right.
It's also it's funny, the idea of like, it seems like criminals are never as tough as the people that they're exploiting. Like if you exploit like a labor union, you're not, I don't know, you're not as tough as the guy who has to go to work every day, and you're not as tough as a guy who's fighting every day. But I guess they have the thing behind them that allows them to.
They got a bunch of friends with guns.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's interestingly enough, it's sort of like one of the most explicit things of someone extracting capital from someone else's labor, right?
Right.
It's one of the most purely capitalist enterprises still going.
Mm-hmm.
It's dope.
Yeah. Anything?
No, not on that.
We're gonna end the show now.
I'm just not.
Show's over.
No.
Okay. Let's see. I think we got to everything. The Yakuza.
There's that fighter who got fixed. This was like
Coleman and Takada.
Yeah, and like that was for sure fixed, and they can't go back.
Yeah, Coleman said it was. I did what I had to do. I wonder what that means.
Yeah.
And no, they can't go back. It's not under an American Athletic Commission. If it was, they would have reversed it by now. But because it took place in Japan, where they don't have the same legal structure that we do with our competitions, no. And Coleman isn't even active anymore, so it's sort of like neither is Takada, so it's like sort of a
moot point.
Yeah.
I also so there's two things that I wrote down that made me really laugh. There's the Nate Diaz being stoned in his fight. That was
that was Nick in his fight with Takanori Gomi.
That was the most amazing story ever. Just being too stoned, and like that's.
I mean, who knows if he was really high, because it takes so long for those metabolites to get out of your system. But
right,
probably. You would think if I was a betting man, I would guess.
Yeah. And the
AC said it was performance enhancing because he couldn't feel pain.
Yeah,
he was
and that's
so high.
bullshit.
He was like a weed demon.
Yeah. It's like fucking go smoke pot and then tell me if that's true. And then the other thing I wrote down was the Kogo Platta submission, which was like amazing. You said it was like
It was invented as a joke in Brazil by jiu-jitsu athlete Nino Schembri, who also invented the rubber guard. And you can only really, you have to be good at the rubber guard. It requires very open hips. You have to really a weird type of joint strength too to get the Gogo Platta. And the Gogo Platta, if you look at it, it's a pretty dumb submission.
Yeah,
as those things go, you're
weird.
literally just sort of pulling down the back of their head onto your shins. There's so many things that would be easier to get, but it's sort of like it's like it's like you're teabagging someone. It's like fuck you, you suck, pussy. You're such a fucking you suck so much at this. Look what I got you. I got you in a joke.
Yeah, that's like the pickaxe at the end of Fortnite.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's like toying with
It's
them.
like, get fucked, bot. Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of pussies, Frank Terranova thinks that I'm pandering to leftists with this show.
Who's Frank Terranova?
He's the older host of the show. I guess you never listened to any of his, but I thought you knew who he was. But he's like an older guy in his 50s who used to be the co-host of the show.
Yeah,
who's a character.
I never heard any Frank episodes.
No. Yeah, you should go back and.
I'll go back and listen. I'm sorry. I've so there's
People-
so
Yeah.
I thought this rule would save me time in like 2017. I was like, I'm only going to listen to podcasts that are done by people I know, and now there are so many I can't even fucking play that.
You're gonna have to change.
But they're
your
all
rule.
like I'm lucky. They're all good. Like I'm lucky that none of my friends make shitty podcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are so fucking many. I'm sorry if I missed Frank episodes.
Our fans like him when he's like put up against a straight man.
We get such mixed feedback because he's a character, he's a funny guy, but then people be like, he's got to stop saying this stuff about Mexicans.
Oh no.
No. So he's a real double-edged sword. But shout out to a real one. Who's never afraid to let you know exactly how he feels about rubbing elbows with. He told me he goes, yeah, that Michael Brooks is a fucking know-nothing liberal, and I'm like, he's like, I had to go to school with black kids. I was never able to learn.
He's full of gems.
That's why.
Dude. Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that shit, man. There's like that is.
If I didn't go to school with those blacks, I'd be a genius right now.
That's what Goodwill Hunting is about. He finally gets to be a janitor away from multiculturalism, and wow, he's a math genius.
Right. Well, any closing thoughts?
Thanks. I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, new year, new Matt.
New you, buddy.
Yeah, and like the documentary was really good.
Thank you.
Please, everybody listening, check it out. We'll leave a link in the description.
Where's the best place to find the documentary?
Oh, just YouTube. Fighting in the Age of Loneliness on YouTube.
I just Google searched and
right. And right now it's your pinned tweet.
Go to Kazaa. If someone put it on I don't think Kazaa, any of those places are still around, but if they put it on a torrent site, that's hysterical. I would laugh very hard at that.
Are there torrent sites anymore?
It's very difficult to. I haven't used one in years and years.
There was
and years
ISO
and years.
Hunt for a long time.
Yeah,
I think
a lot of them got taken down.
Yeah.
I haven't even tried to look at one for
and
years.
It's like Wikipedia where there's like a top article or there's like a top banner part where it's like save our founder.
Yeah,
he's like in jail.
Those guys, the guys who started those sites got fucked, and I sort of feel bad for them because it's like
Bear share.
literally millions of people were just like, "Oh, I'm gonna fucking watch, Spider-Man."
Yeah.
when it comes, I'm gonna
And
get
these
an
guys
Oscar
are-
rip, and
They're being made an example.
yeah, they're not. It's not. Yeah, they're getting gas price sentences, and they're just like, "Oh, you also owe $3 trillion." And they're like, "Fuck, dude." I was funny when they tried to get Russians for that. Like
What?
American, like the RIAA tried to sue Russia for that because file sharing is such a big thing over there, and it's like, yeah, good luck, man.
Yeah.
Good luck, buddy.
I just remember my brother and my cousin, they were the same age, and we started downloading porn together, and they ejaculated for the first time together.
Yeah, that's a lemon party fucking website right there.
they were like 12 or 11 or something.
TwoBrothers.org.
Well, I remember that from being. I was
Shout out to Steve and Sam, by the way. That's Steve Recine and Sam Vinci. Steve Recine and
What's
Sam
their
Vinci.
address?
My brother is Steve. Wait, let me plug his Instagram.
I'm reading this. Do you guys know Karl Ove Knausgaard?
No.
No.
He's this Norwegian author who wrote like a 7,000 page autobiography that me and my friend Andrew started reading like partly as a joke because we're going to do a side podcast about it this year. And we've just ended up really liking it. And it's called My Struggle. Yeah. Like he's sort of like an asshole as a guy. Like he's doing that on purpose to antagonize people. But I'm reading the first book now and it's like it's sort of like Proust, and then he has this incredible recall of his own life. And it's given me such flashbacks to like being 12, because that's that first part of the book. Yeah. And I remember like being 12 and being at a sleepover, and it was like everyone wanted to jack off to porn together. It's so stupid.
I never had that.
It's like a cool thing you do with your boys.
Yeah,
you don't know.
What is going on?
Children are so stupid. I don't know.
What's happening?
Cool, dude. Let's all come.
Jesus Christ. We played Star Fox and played ping pong.
I mean, Matt was invited to the cool party.
Yeah, I was a fucking nerd.
With Smirnoff Ice and jizz.
It's so stupid. Like you can literally, you're a kid. You have so much time alone.
Yeah.
You could literally do this any other time. It's like, oh, my friends are over. It's time to come. By the way, I'm going to say everyone else is gay, by the way. It's so dumb. Like,
my friends.
What is the thought process there? That we were just like, oh, we got it. Let's go, dude.
But the idea of
everyone's here. We can finally jack off.
But the idea of discovering porn with your friends is like kind of fun.
Oh, it's super fun. Yeah. But the idea of jacking off with you, someone has to break the cycle. If I ever have kids, I'll be like, look, don't do that thing where you guys all jerk off.
My cousin's Instagram right now, the one who jerked off with my brother, it's all like hiking photos
he's trying to fix
and ultrasounds of his baby. Because he's having a kid. I'm not gonna say his name, but it's just funny how his life is so straight laced, and he loves hiking, but he loves something else too. Anyway, all right, I guess that's it. Check out Felix's podcast. Check out the documentary. Any other plugs?
No.
Support us on Patreon, Sit Down Pod, and follow us on Instagram at Sit Down Pod. And
leave us a 5-star review on iTunes as well.
Hit my do that.
Yeah,
hit my
important.
DMs on Instagram. It's where a lot of people, tell me to kill myself.
It's so Instagram is great.
You have
for
to
that.
be following them in order for you, in order
because you
for
can
them to
choose
write
if you want to accept the message or not.
I get a lot of fucking weird messages on there.
Do you? I guess I'm not. I don't have enough followers yet.
Not yet.
I tried to get verified. They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't verify me.
Really?
Damn.
There's so many like fucking less important people than me on there. I never say stuff like that, but actually, no, there's some fucking losers on there who are verified. I'm literally a best-selling author. Suck my dick, man.
Where's my blue check mark?
I just want it, man. I just fucking want it. I want it because it's like...
Yeah, but then it's cool not to have it because it's like you don't give a shit.
But I do. Everyone knows I tried to get verified.
Right,
I just said it.
Cut that out,
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I just want it, man. I want it because then, like, people see my notifications, and I really think, like, Ivanka Trump, she sees that I, like, watched her story. She'll notice now because it will put my thing at the top.
It puts you at the top.
Yeah. Now you can DM her and tell her she's a beautiful woman.
She's like,
ma'am, I would never do Russia stuff, unlike your husband.
Oh, awesome.
All right. Well, that's the show, folks. Thanks again for listening.
Awesome, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you for having
Felix. Me. Yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.